Welcome back to Shape Your Life, where we believe your first wealth is your health. Continuing with our TB Awareness Month commemoration, we sat down with the head of the Center for Tuberculosis at the National Institute for Communicable Diseases to find out more about the work they do. Thank you so much for joining us in Shape Your Life.
Pleasure.
When it comes to TB, knowing the big concern that it is globally, especially in South Africa, what work is going behind the scenes to help us try to get ahead of this condition?
Okay, excellent question. I mean, in order to manage a situation, you really need to understand its burden. And what we do at the National Institute for Communicable Diseases is really surveillance and surveys, which really aim at understanding the burden so we can sort of manage the situation better. Interestingly, we currently have a survey ongoing trying to really estimate the true burden of TB. So we've done a lot of work previously around the trends of TB over the years and looking at what's currently diagnosed. But the gap that we have is we're not sure what burden of TB lies in the community that never presents. So that's the current survey underway. It's completed its work in KwaZulu-Natal, and they've moved into Eastern Cape right now. So that'll really provide some important information around the true burden. And the survey really is slightly different from what routinely happens. Routinely, you're expected to go to a facility and get tested. But with the survey, the teams go out to communities and they invite people from homes to attend the site where they do an X-ray, they do lab testing, etc. And that's really quite useful in terms of engaging the community, but also trying to get a true sense of what's actually in the communities and what burden lies there.
Mm-hmm. Now, bringing it closer to what you guys do in the labs, because surely there must be a lot of investigation and research being done on the actual, TB bacterium and to see why is some of it drug resistant? How do you develop our drugs to now combat that, etc.?
So I think the lab plays a critical role, especially for TB. The main reason is that often, if you look at TB, the symptoms are very vague early on. You can have a cough, and that could be a common cold or flu. So really being able to diagnose TB is critical, and we really need to do lab testing for that. So that's why it's very important that people come forward for testing. And the labs are equipped with modern technologies. I mean, South Africa has been a leader in new diagnostics for TB. So we have the latest technology. I mean, we're world leaders in that. And the current technology picks up TB in a few hours. Although in practice, I mean, obviously when you go to your clinic and come out of it, it takes a day or two to get the results back to the clinic. But by and large, I mean, it's really highly accurate and can pick up TB even at early stages of disease. We've got another issue that's emerging around sort of asymptomatic or early stage TB. And ideally, if we pick up TB early, we can cure it more effectively.
But I think you speak to something that's also top of my mind, is that many people associate TB with low socioeconomic communities in our country, but it can affect anybody in the country.
Yeah. I mean, like Mandela, Desmond Tutu have had TB. So there's been kind of a high-profile people that have had TB as well. So it affects all communities. I mean, even if you work in a work environment with a mixed group of people, if a person has TB, they can infect anyone.
Where to for you and your team when it comes to the research, the diagnostic tools, so that we can, in the next year when we have another chat, what progress do you hope to make?
So I think that there's two broad streams of responses. The WHO has a very smart slogan. It's called "Know your epidemic, know your response." And fundamentally, you can't respond to something you can't measure, and therefore you cannot manage. So what we're really focusing on as a center is really trying to track the epidemic, because it's not homogeneous. We have TB everywhere, but the amount of TB is often concentrated in specific areas of the country. So if you look at within the country, about 4 provinces account for 75% of the TB burden. If you look at within the metros, I mean, there's a selected few metros that really contribute to the largest burden. So the first strategy is around knowing our epidemic and trying to target our responses to really go to where it's needed most. So that's the one strategy. And the second is obviously advancing technology. So looking at new diagnostic tools. I mean, like I mentioned, we're using this advanced technology for sequencing. But fundamentally, there's tools that are coming out that could do sequencing in a clinic. So really, you come there, you can just get your full genome done. And we could just tell you, look, your TB, your HIV, your diabetes, you could do a whole variety of things there. So I think that's really where we're trying to focus. But the other area that I'm quite keen on is around latent TB infection. So that's something that people don't really appreciate for TB. So you wonder, I'm exposed to a person at work with TB, but I don't necessarily get TB myself. So how come? And that's explained by our immune system. So you could be exposed, you inhale the bacillus, but our immune system is almost like our weapon that protects us. And for most individuals, I mean, if you look at TB, if you're exposed to TB, your lifetime risk normally in a HIV a negative person, your risk for developing TB is 10% in your entire lifetime, meaning that 90% would just have a latent focus in your lungs and your immune system has controlled it. So that's another dimension about understanding how transmission occurs and how our immune system can control these infections. So that's an exciting future. Yeah.
Wow, so much work ahead and exciting things that can save lives.
Exactly.
I wish you and your team all the best for what you're up to. Let the people in the Eastern Cape come in their numbers to complete that survey, and we move on to the next.
Excellent.
So thank you so much for your time and for sharing this insight with us.
Pleasure.
Some treatments can be taxing on one's body. We sat down with dietitian Tony Henderson to find out which food items to take when you're on antibiotics or chronic medication. Tony, thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me, Ron.
As someone with the expertise and the passion for healthy eating and food and the impact it has on our bodies, when it comes to TB, it's strong medication.
Yes.
And people get told you need to adhere to your medication because the doctors get fixated on curing you from the bacterium. But they don't realize the impact that the strong medication, whether it's TB or others, has on your body and your system. Why is eating healthy so important when it comes to taking this medication?
Okay, so when it comes to taking chronic medications, there's two reasons why you should be eating well. The one is that with the strong medications, you can put damage or strain your stomach and your intestinal lining. So if you're taking the medications on an empty stomach, you can end up getting diarrhea or gastritis, or stomach pains and reflux and nausea. So it's very important to eat well so that you can support this medication. And on the other hand, you need to make sure you're eating well to support your immune system so that the medication works better, but also strong medications can affect your metabolism. So we just want to counteract the effects of the medication, or the harmful effects of the medication, not the positive effects of the medication.
Now, when you say protect your stomach lining, what do you mean?
Okay, so your stomach lining is it's a mucous membrane. So it's just a thin membrane in your stomach where juices and acids and things are secreted to digest your food. Now, what happens is sometimes the medication can cause inflammation on your stomach lining, and then you can end up getting ulcers and sores, and also the right juices aren't produced, so then your digestion is affected.
Now, when we look at this, many people say, take a probiotic. Whenever you have medication or an antibiotic, take a probiotic. And people say, okay, what are you trying to tell me here? Are you trying to insult me, swear me? Because they don't understand what it actually means to take a probiotic.
Okay, so probiotics are basically little bacteria. It's live bacteria that come in capsule form that actually work in your gut. So naturally we have a lot of bacteria, healthy, good bacteria in our guts. And when you're taking a strong medication, because of the change in metabolism, in acidity in your stomach and things like that, a lot of the bacteria dies off. So if you take a probiotic, it just helps to keep those healthy bacteria levels up so that your digestion and absorption stays where it should be while you're on the medication.
So do I only have to get this from taking tablets or capsules, or can I find similar type of impact from the natural foods that we then eat?
So yes, you can get a similar impact in natural foods. So it's your fermented foods mainly, so things like yogurt. So yogurt has live cultures in it, live bacteria that helps to propagate or grow bacteria, good bacteria in your gut, as well as even other fermented dairy products like your mass. And then other fermented products like pickles, so pickled onions, pickled gherkins, pickled carrots, sauerkraut, and even unkamasi is also, well, it's mas.
Mas. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I used to live on that, you know, okay, with a little bit of sugar, but, you know, we love the incomas taste.
Yes, so that stuff really helps your stomach with the probiotics. And then foods high in fiber, like your beans, lentils, chickpeas, they help to feed the bacteria in your gut. So these are foods that should be in your diet as well to help the bacteria that's already in your gut to grow.
Now, when we look at people that are on chronic medication, or some strong medication rather, what happens with that is that it's for a condition.
Yes.
So it's not just what you're eating that counts, it's also how you're eating that plays an important role.
Yes.
What is the purpose of overall healthy eating when you are on strong medication to manage a particular condition or disease?
Okay, so when you're on strong medications, especially in respect to TB, you need to make sure you are getting enough protein. So a lot of the medications affect protein absorption and buildup. So eating regularly and having some sort of protein at each meal can really just help you stay healthier and make sure you're not getting bad side effects from the medication. And healthy eating in general on strong chronic medications is exactly for that, to stop the adverse side effects of the medication and make sure that you get well and feel well while on the medication.
And how important is having water for hydration purposes when on strong medication?
It's very important. And not only for hydration, but to also get rid of the waste products from the medication working. So we want to flush our system and make sure all the bad byproducts are getting out. So you need to make sure you are drinking your 1.5 to 2 liters of water every single day.
Tony, thank you so much for your time, for joining us on Shape Your Life as always,
It's a
and giving us
pleasure.
a different insight into
Yes.
taking chronic medication
Yes.
and how you need to still eat healthy, have the right nutrients, and understand the purpose thereof to look after your body.
Yes. It's a pleasure, Ron. Thank you so much for having me.
In order to maintain good health, not only do you have to eat healthy, you also need some exercise. Why don't you join us for our routine this week? I always say your body is your gym, but you need to also utilize your environment in the best possible way. Today we're utilizing a ledge. It's a couple of bricks and paving, and we're going to utilize this as our gym to enhance the body workout. We're focusing on a little bit of cardio coupled with strength for our upper body and our lower body. Ladies, are you ready? So let's start off first, right foot up. And we're doing a variation of consistent step up just to get our heart rates up a bit. Go as fast as you can go, and if this is too high, please find a lower space and then give it a go then. You do this for 30 seconds. Let's go. All right, good. What a challenge, it's so high. You know, it's daunting, but it allows you to engage your core, utilize other muscles and focus on the exercise ahead, because when you do that, your technique becomes important to help you prevent injuries and maximize body results. Our next exercise for the lower body is a traditional step up. You can use a bench, you can use a dining room chair. As long as it's sturdy, it's okay to do this. You plant your right foot on the surface, hands on your hips for balance, or in front of you, wherever's comfortable for you. And all that you do is step up, engage your glutes, tighten your abs, and back down and up. Cool, let's go. 1, and you're doing 20 on each side. Let's change legs. 3, 2, 1. All right, good, down we go. Now what that exercise does is isolate individual muscle groups. So it isolates the quadricep, but when you come up correctly and you engage your glute, it also works your buttocks and helps tighten that area, but your core as well, to keep you balanced as you come down. So next exercise, upper body time. We're doing a normal grip push-up on an elevated surface. So all that we do is feet go further back, bend it down as low as you can go, and push it up. and you do this for 20 repetitions. Good, up we come. Now, many people think that a push-up only works the chest muscles, but did you know it also works slightly on the shoulders and the triceps? So utilizing our elevated surface, let's do some tricep dips to shape and tone the back of our arms. So you're going to have a seat on the surface, place your hands next to your hips, feet go forward, drop your buttocks down, bend the elbows, and push up, down and up. Down and up, and aim for 20 repetitions. Good, relax it up. Ladies, you feeling okay? So far, so good. Now there's so many more exercises you could do, but what we focused on are key big muscle groups coupled with some small ones. We started off with cardio, working the hamstrings, working the calves. We did the leg raises, the leg step-ups, and within that we worked the quadriceps and a little bit of the glutes. We then did the push-up, focusing on the chest, and we ended up working on the tricep area. You can mix and match these exercises, do 2 or 3 sets, but give yourselves minimal breaks, and maybe in between go for a run or a short sprint to bring in some high-intensity interval training cardio. From us here at Shape Your Life, we're going to continue with our workout. Why don't you start yours and let us know how it feels. That's all we have for you on today's show. Do keep in touch with us via email on shapeyourlife@ann7.com for all your health-related queries, feedback and topic suggestions. From me, Ronald Avergy, see you next week.